share, and we will be starting here in, nope, a second. Okay. So here we go. Okay, finally got it all set up and ready. Okay, my loves, here we go. 5 secrets to become a modern seductress. I'm your host, Lauren Joyce. We have probably about an hour together, an hour worth of content. So I promise I will get through as much content as I can for you this evening, and I will leave time for Q&A at the end. So I'm going to go through 5 secrets, 5 steps to become a modern seductress. These are things that will help you feel more seductive, feel more sexy, feel more able to attract in a man or the man that you desire or your man. My tribe tends to have women who are both single and in relationships. So when I say attract in a man, it means either the man that you desire to be with if you're single or a relationship. Please mute yourselves. Just check and make sure that you are muted, because from this place I cannot mute you. So you're going to want to do that and make sure you're muted, or else I'll have to go back in and either remove you or figure something out. But please make sure that you're muted, okay? Great, thank you. Okay, so you're in the right training if you want to feel like a seductress in your own skin. You want to feel comfortable and confident, really connecting to your seductive energy, and you want to learn how to act like a seductress around men so that you inspire them to treat you like a goddess. Because the majority of men, as long as they don't have a mental illness or an addiction issue, can really be inspired into greatness by the right woman. If you want to tap into your inner seductress without losing or sacrificing a feeling of power or a sense of power or your success, and what all seductresses have that no other woman has, what other women are lacking, okay? So that's what we'll be going over tonight in the training. So I promise to you that you'll walk away feeling more comfortable with even the idea of what being a seductress is and what that means or looks like for you and how that can be natural for you. Knowing what you need to stop doing in order to step into your seductive energy, and feeling more clear on what you need to start doing so that you can be treated like a goddess by men. Okay, so here is the time where I get to introduce myself to you. So some of you, many of you have joined my trainings before, so thank you so much for being here yet again. And if you're new to my trainings, I am Lauren Joyce, and I'm a sex and relationship coach for really successful, ambitious women. So you can look at all of my photos, all of my marketing, all of the content I'll go over this evening and think like, oh, wow, I must have been this way my entire life, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, I spent most of my life feeling really uncomfortable and invisible to men. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school, and I've always considered myself a very good student. And let me tell you, I really took on that shame and guilt that Catholic upbringing brought on me, right? And I felt so much shame around being a woman, around my female body. I started to develop my very feminine figure at a very early age, which made me quite uncomfortable, especially compared to the rest of the girls in the class. And, you know, I always felt invisible to boys. I felt like I was the one girl in the class that never had a boyfriend, that who would ask, you know, guys to go to a dance if it was the girl's turn to ask a guy, and would get denied multiple times. I spent most of my life really taking pride in my accomplishments, in my intelligence, in my success. So when it kind of came down to it, I felt like, okay, well, I'm not really that attractive to guys, or at least it doesn't seem to be that way. But maybe, just maybe, if I'm successful enough or smart enough, then I'll end up in a great relationship. And, you know, I went through a few relationships, and I remember one of my very first and formative relationships, it wasn't very healthy, because I didn't know really how to be in a relationship. And it left me even more self-conscious about myself as a woman, about my body. It left me feeling like I was too much, my emotions were too much, that I needed to shrink down in order to be liked or to be loved. And so instead of trying to figure that out, I just kept pushing ahead in my career, striving for more success, striving for more certifications. And all of that was well and good, but I wasn't really fulfilled, right? Because when you're constantly trying to push for something outside of yourself, you're still not really fulfilled on the inside. And then when I was 25, my dad passed away. And that loss really brought me to my knees in a lot of ways. I had no idea how to deal with the emotions that I was experiencing, but I also had this very strong desire to not waste any time in my life. I saw firsthand how precious life was and how we aren't guaranteed any amount of time in our life. And so I knew from that moment on, I wanted to live my life in a more fulfilling way. And I also didn't know what to do with everything I was experiencing. So I ended up finding a course that centered around living a pleasurable life. So I thought this would be the perfect excuse that they would just tell me I could eat chocolate cake like all day, every day, because what else would be more pleasurable, right? However, what I found was a connection to my femininity, to my sensuality, to my sexuality, and also a way to really navigate the emotions that I was feeling. So as I was in this process and I was starting to feel more fulfilled, I felt more better, more able to handle what I was experiencing emotionally. I started to notice how differently men were approaching me. Please mute yourselves, ladies. Please make sure you are muted. Thank you so much. Okay. I started to see how men were approaching me in a very different way. They were much more attracted to me. And I realized that I hadn't changed, my looks hadn't changed, how I dressed hadn't really changed. What it was my energy. What it was my confidence in myself. And what it was my connection to my femininity. So I knew that with everything I had learned from going from such a place of grief, sadness, and loss to such a place of fulfillment, and also this like budding flirt and seductress that was coming out, I wanted to help other women do the same. So that's what made me decide to become a coach and start my career. And I saw so many successful, ambitious women struggling in this pursuit for success and power, but yet feeling so unfulfilled in relationships and feeling like they have to pick one over the other. But what I found was that was not the case at all. Okay. So the 5 steps that I'm going to walk you through today are how to honor your unique beauty. That is how you start to feel like a seductress. How to embody the seductress inside of you. How to let her out. How to master your emotions so that you can allow your radiance to shine. How to embrace your sexuality as a way to create ecstatic passion in your life. And how to understand the psychology of the masculine so that you can inspire them into greatness. Okay, so secret number 1 is embracing your unique beauty. So no two seductresses look the same. If we think of the seductress throughout history, right? Who are the famous ones? Like Cleopatra, different courtesans, different women in like, the Asian Empire, different geishas, you name it. None of them looked the same. And quite frankly, a lot of them were not considered classically beautiful at the time, but they knew how to draw on the strengths of their own unique beauty. So again, this isn't about stepping into or becoming. Let me see if I can mute you guys. Hold on one second here. Sorry for the interruption, ladies. The background noise is just really getting to me. However, it looks like, there we go. Okay. Now, no one touch anything on their computer, so I don't have to try and mute you again. Because Lord knows, me and technology on these things. Okay, here, let's go a little smaller on that one. And we are back. Okay, there we go. So no two seductresses looked the same, right? And the majority of them didn't have a classic beauty at that time, but they knew how to draw on their inner beauties. And one of the ways that a seductress knows how to enhance her unique beauty is by playing up what makes her feel really beautiful. So let's say, for example, you're a woman and you love your eyes, but you may like have some body image issues or whatever. Play up your eyes. Do whatever it is that will help you feel beautiful, will help you feel connected. So obviously you have heard a little bit about me from before, but since we started the recording over, I'm going to just back up a little bit and give a very brief synopsis of the fact that I have not always been magnetic, nor have I always embodied my seductress. In fact, I spent most of my life feeling very uncomfortable in my body and self-conscious. Please mute yourselves, ladies. Thank you. And yet, what I learned when I started to tap into my femininity, to my sensuality, and to my sexuality was that those were the keys to my seductive energy. So hold on one second here. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Hand. So just to go back over the 5 steps, they're going to be honoring your unique beauty, being able to embody your own inner seductress, mastering your emotions, learning how to embrace your sexuality, and really understanding the psychology of the masculine so that you can inspire man into greatness. So this is where we were so rudely interrupted. So embracing your own unique beauty. No two seductresses throughout history ever looked the same. And the majority of the most successful seductresses and courtesans is that they were not what would have been considered classically beautiful at that time. But they knew how to play up their own unique beauty. They knew how to adorn their beauty, and they knew how to do the other steps that we will get into. So what does this mean for you? Really think about the features of you or your face, your body or your face, and how maybe what is your favorite? What's your favorite feature? For me, it's I love my eyes. I love wearing really bold lipstick. That makes me feel amazing. I feel like it really highlights features of my face that I love. Now, someone may look at me and say, oh, well, Lauren, you have great cheekbones. I don't necessarily see that, right? So you need to hone in on what you feel like are your best features. Because someone may say, oh my goodness, you have beautiful, I don't know. You have beautiful, that's the old recording. Here we go. So many tech issues this evening. Maybe someone says to you, you have beautiful arms. And you're like, I don't really like my arms, right? So you're not going to dress to show off your arms if you aren't like, yeah, I got rockin' arms, right? And that is something that seductresses of the past knew how to do really, really well, was to hone in on what they knew was beautiful about themselves and really enhance it, really pay attention to it. Now, here's the thing, ladies. I know so often it can be easy to want to derive confidence, derive adoration of beauty from another person. And what I mean by that is, of course, it feels really great when a man tells you how beautiful you are. However, no man or person will ever adorn your beauty or your body more than you can do that for yourself. Now, of course, there may be some men that you're in relationship with, that you've been in relationship with, that you will be in relationship with, that maybe compliment you more than you tend to compliment yourself. But I gave this example the other day, and I think it's such a beautiful example. So if your adoration for yourself was basically like a liter container, you could fill you could fit how much you adore and love yourself, your body, your beauty in a liter container. And let's say you're with a man and the amount of adoration, love, honoring that he has for your beauty and your body fits into like a 2-liter container. And so he's pouring out all these compliments onto you. So if he's pouring his 2-liter container into your 1 liter, you'll never be able to fully receive how much he loves and adores you, because your relationship with your own beauty, you only have that much space. Is that making sense? So the reason why I bring this up in embracing your own unique beauty is that you need to do the work to really build up the connection to your own beauty. Our beauty is the gateway to the divine. Like, we're all made so uniquely. We're all this beautiful piece of artwork. And when you start to really see yourself as that and see the beauty that's all around us as that, you become so much more connected to the energy and the essence of beauty, which makes you inherently feel more beautiful. It makes you feel more confident. And that is what's so attractive. Okay. So that's secret number 1, is really embracing your own unique beauty. Secret number 2 is learning how to embody your seductress. What do I mean by that? If we're looking at the energies that we all hold as people, right? So this isn't related to gender. We all have a masculine energy, and that's the energy in which we like get things done, we solve problems, point A to point B, strategy. And then we have a feminine energy, and the feminine energy is the connection to our emotions, our sensuality, our senses, the connection to our intuition, our creativity. So if you think about where these energies tend to occur, the masculine energy is all in the head, thinking, providing, action, point A to point B. And the feminine energy is all in the body, right? So when you learn how to embody your seductress, what it really means is learning how to tap into your body, how to connect to your feminine energy. So this is the thing. The masculine, men who run more on a masculine energy, while they can connect to their emotions, maybe their intuition, there's something that a woman who's connected to her body, who's in her body, who's connected to her feminine energy brings to the table that no man can connect to inside of himself. Your radiance, ladies, is a gift to men. But the only way that you can truly shine your radiance is when you're connected to your feminine, when you're really in your body, when you feel really good about being in your body. Doesn't matter what you're wearing at that point, it's the energy that you're giving off. So the thing with being in your body is it has to feel good and it has to feel safe in your body. So we're going to get to why it may not feel safe, but this is how you feel like a seductress. If you think about the courtesans in Paris in the 1600s, or Cleopatra, or I don't even know, Sophia Loren, and how they walk, it's not like, right? Gotta get to where I'm going. They're in their bodies. They're moving their hips. They're taking every step with pleasure. That is a woman who's magnetic. That is a woman that when men are around her, that's what they crave. They crave that embodiment piece because that is something that men can't connect to inside of themselves. So really learning how to be in your body, being connected to your feminine, is how you start to feel the part of being a modern day seductress. Now, here's the thing. We are so lucky because the seductresses and the courtesans of centuries before us, while they had more power and influence than women at their time, they lived in a time when women weren't allowed to own property, weren't allowed to read, weren't allowed to have the freedoms that we have today. And then if you look at the feminist movement, right, we get the right to vote, then World War II comes along and women start working, and then the men come back from the war, and women at that time had to fight for their place in the workplace. They had to prove that they were just as good at working like a man as a man was. So being in their body, being feminine, being soft, being connected to their emotions, all of that had to go by the wayside. Now, I'm so, so grateful for the women that came before us, right? That have worked so hard and fought so much to give us the freedoms that we have today. But what has happened is the pendulum swung so far to one side that the majority of women, especially the majority of women like you watching who are ambitious, successful, are up to big things in the world, have cut themselves off of their feminine in order to try and get ahead. And that's worked, right? But when it comes to being in relationship and in partnership with men, when it comes to feeling comfortable and confident in your body, when it comes to feeling like you're actually the fullest expression of yourself, when it comes to feeling like you're actually living a fulfilling life, you have to be connected to your feminine. You have to be embodied, right? And so unfortunately, there's no like class out there when you get to college of like how to be an empowered feminine woman. And up until fairly recently, there hasn't been a lot of information, let alone role models out there. So we're really living at this very exciting time, ladies, where we're on the forefront of creating what does it look like to really be an empowered woman who has the career, the money, the influence, the power, and who has the femininity, who has the sensuality, who has the connection to her body, to her wisdom, to her emotions, right? So that's what all of this is about, is being a seductress, because who has been left out of all of the equations for so long is your seductress, is this archetype of the seductress. Why? Because a woman who's been fully empowered in her body and sensually and sexually has been a threat. So we've been told that it's not safe, it's not okay, that she's dirty, that she's bad, that she's wrong, that she's a whore, right? That's what we've been told about this seductive, sensual, sexual energy. So the majority of women have shoved it in a box, cut themselves off, tried to throw away the key. But the fact of the matter is, she holds the key to so much of what you want. Okay? So I know you may be like, okay, this sounds really great, Lauren, but like, how do I do that? How do I even know if I'm embodied? How do I know if I'm cut off from my body, right? You know, if you're embodied, you're connected to your body, you feel grounded in your body, you feel at home in your body. Now, that feeling of at homeness, that feeling of comfort in your body, is not the norm for a lot of women. And we're going to go into that next. So a seductress is a master of her emotions. It doesn't mean that she doesn't experience emotions. Most of the most infamous courtesans and seductresses of all times had a very wide range of emotions, right? They were dealt some pretty shitty hands, okay? I mean, I can't imagine Cleopatra didn't have emotions when she was like ordering murders and like being overthrown and having to like escape in carpets, right? And not to mention like one of my all-time favorite courtesans, Veronica Franco, right? Who was put on trial for a witch. Like, it's not like she just sat there emotionless. We as women have a very large range of emotions. We can go from like a murderous rage to epic bliss in like 0.5 seconds and back again. But here's the thing. A woman who really experiences her full range of emotions was scary. So we were told that was not the good girl thing to do. That wasn't what good girls did. Now, this isn't just something that my parents and the culture that I grew up in may have told me, or your parents and the culture you grew up in told you. I'm talking centuries of women being told that their emotions are too much, that we shouldn't feel them, that we should stuff them down, we should cut themselves off. Like, thank you, Puritans, right? Who were like the quintessential, like, don't feel anything or everything. And so what is a modern woman to do? Like, you experience stress and frustration, despair, grief, anger, bliss, passion, joy. But we try to fit this huge range that makes life beautiful into a tiny, tiny little box. So what happens? We push down our emotions, it becomes a pressure cooker, then it explodes. And typically, who does it explode on? Men. A guy's 10 minutes late to pick you up. You rip him a new one, but really has nothing to do with the fact that he's 10 minutes late. So it can lead to a feeling of stagnancy and frustration in your life. That's what makes you feel cut off from your body too. Why? Because your emotions are housed in your body. If you don't know how to express them, if you don't know how to liberate your emotions, it's not going to feel comfortable in your body. You're just going to start to feel all these emotions that you were told not to feel. So then you don't want to feel your body, right? So, and what happens when you learn how to master your emotions, when you learn how to liberate emotions and trauma, is it actually, if you think of the stuck emotions kind of like mud, right? So you've packed all this mud down, but you have this inner light, this inner radiance that wants to shine. But if you have all this packed mud down there, no one can really see your radiance, right? You walk around like dull, foggy. When you learn how to master your emotions as a seductress, you create space for you to actually shine, for your radiance to actually be seen. And here's the best part. When you learn how to master your emotions and liberate your emotions, you actually create more space for the masculine in the relationship. Because if you're walking around literally with all of this emotional baggage, there's not enough room for another person, right? Okay. So, what about emotions and trauma? They can become stuck in the body. And what do I mean by that? If you've experienced anything that's registered as trauma in your body, so it's created the response of fight, flight, or freeze, and you don't complete that cycle, you don't actually liberate that feeling that's happening in your body, it will get stuck there. And then what will happen is you'll be terrified to be put in a same position, in a situation. You'll create all these fears, all of these emotions will come up. All the parts of your brain, your primal brain, your limbic system, your cortex, will start to shut down parts of your body. You won't be able to feel your body. You won't be able to express yourself. But there are ways to liberate emotion and trauma from your body in a gentle way. So it's not that you're re-triggering the trauma or re-triggering the emotion, but think of it as kind of like a spring cleaning of a closet, right? If you have all this shit kind of shoved in a closet and you never clean it out, you'll never have room for good new stuff to come in, stuff that's more you. This is why I hear all the time women who are like, I've done all this work on myself and I'm still attracting the same type of guy. And it's like, I have no doubt in my mind you've done a lot of high level thinking, work on yourself. But if you haven't embodied it, if you haven't released old emotions and trauma from your body, you're still not going to be in alignment. Emotions are king. Like, thoughts are great, but your subconscious is ruling the show and your emotions are a close second. So if you're not tapped into what's happening subconsciously, and you're not tapped into the emotions and the trauma that may be stuck in your body, you're not going to be aligned with all the higher level work that you've been doing. So that's why it's so, so critical for a seductress to be a master of her emotions, to know when she gets frustrated, when she gets angry, what to do and how to liberate that emotion from her body. Okay, so step number 4, secret number 4 is embracing your sexuality. Now, our sexuality is the key to our power. Why do I say this? Because sexuality as a human is primal. It's innate, right? We, as human beings, think of us as just a species, as an animal, we have an innate desire for sex, to procreate, right? However, humans, we lucked out, right? On the evolutionary scale, we can have sex all the time, not just to procreate. It's the key to our power because it really brings us into wholeness. So think about it. If there's something that is so primal, so innate in you. And yet we've been taught since we were little that it's not okay, that it's dirty to not talk about it, to not think about it, to not pay attention to it. What do you think that does for your self-confidence, for how you move through the world, for how you express yourself, right? That's why when a woman really embraces her sexuality, really becomes empowered sexually, and this doesn't mean that she's just going out and having sex with anything and everyone. Quite the opposite, in fact. She has better boundaries. She's much more discerning about who she's with. But it's really this ownership of who she is as a woman, right? You can't fully own who you are as a woman if you suppress, deny, and cut yourself off from your sexuality. If you try and quash any desire that you have, if you don't even want to think about any desire you have, right? So this is where the seductress really gets involved. Why? She's so connected to sensuality, right? The seductress archetype is so sensual, so in the body, so unapologetic about desires and pleasure, which of course includes sexuality, which is why most of the women who were seductresses and courtesans, right? They didn't always have sex with men for money. Most of the time, men just loved being in their presence. Why? Because they were so embodied, because they understood the male psyche, which we'll get to next, but because they were also really empowered and unapologetic about their desires, their pleasure, their sensuality. And again, it doesn't always come back to the act of having sex, but it could, being empowered in your desires, in your sensuality could be like, I desire a really sexy meal of tapas and wine in a well-lit place. Why? Because of how it makes you feel, of how turned on you get, right? Physically, that life force flowing through you. That's what men want to be with. A woman who is that connected to her desires, who has mastered her emotions, who knows how to ask for what she wants, who's really in such confidence and adoration of who she is as a woman, and who's really empowered in her desires and her sexuality, and who knows that she's a sexual being. Again, it's not about flaunting it everywhere. It's just an embracing and an acknowledgement of fully who you are as a woman. So this is the thing though, ladies, when you listen to a lot of dating and relationship trainings on how to get men, how to communicate with them, whatever, your sexuality is always left off the table, or a lot of the time. And why is that? One, it's still very taboo. Two, a lot of the people out there, and this isn't a judgment, haven't done their own work in this area, or are too afraid to talk about it with their clients. Three, it can be very polarizing. And four, there's still not this just like wide open acceptance of it, right? But again, a lot of the people who are doing trainings, or maybe that you're listening to or reading their books, like they may not have done work around their sexuality. Not a judgment, I'm just saying it's so interesting to me that the keys to our power, the keys to our wholeness in general, tend to be left off the table when it comes to self-development, self-improvement, dating, relationships, and men, right? So this is one of the key pieces of really learning how to embody your seductress, how to act like a seductress. So step number 5 is understanding the psychology of men. So what most women don't know about the psychology of the masculine is that it just wants to be in service of the feminine. It loves to solve problems, and it's single focused. Okay. So when you can start to understand really the psychology of the masculine, you can communicate in a way that he really gets it. You can play to how his brain works, but it's not manipulation. Okay. The way that it's not manipulation is you have to, once you really start to understand the psychology of men and the psychology of the masculine, you come into such a space of love and acceptance for who and what men are that there's no way you can manipulate them, because you're just in like such appreciation for what they're bringing to the table, and you're trying to communicate to them in a way that they get it. It's very similar, and this plays on my background. I used to be a language translator. When there were two people that would come together of speaking different languages, let's say it was English and Spanish, and if the person who was speaking English said something and the person speaking Spanish, maybe they both spoke each other's language, but just kind of basic, right? The person speaking Spanish maybe didn't understand all of it. So then the person speaking English would maybe pick a different word, a more simple word, right? It doesn't mean the person that speaks Spanish is stupid or that this person hates that person. It's just like, okay, you have a different language, you have a different base, a different perspective. Let me try and match that so you get what I'm saying, and vice versa. So that's what happens when you start to understand the psychology of men and the masculine. So the quickest way to turn any and every man off is criticizing him and disrespecting him. When you cut a man off mid-story, when you try and fill in his sentence, when you ask him a question, you don't give him time to answer, that is like a knife to the masculine heart. They're just like, they feel completely and utterly disrespected. They feel completely and utterly cut off, and they're just like they don't want to be a part of it anymore. Okay. So again, when you really start to understand the psychology of the male mind, you can use that not just to your advantage, but to his advantage too, because he just wants to make you happy. Okay. So just to recap, ladies, we have adoring your own beauty, embodying your seductress, mastering your emotions, embracing your sexuality, and understanding the psychology of the masculine. Now, all of these things are amazing and necessary in order for you to be a seductress, but there's two more things that I have noticed that all seductresses, all courtesans, all women who have learned how to do all 5 of these things have in common. Are you ready? Okay. They've had a sisterhood of women behind them. So if you think about courtesans and seductresses of centuries ago, typically they were in what? Harems. Now there may have been a little competition there, I'll give you that, but they had a community of women. They had a sisterhood of women who were doing the same thing, right? So courtesans, again, one of my favorite movies of all time, Dangerous Beauty, like these courtesans, yeah, there was some rivalry and whatever, but they were all sexually empowered women. They were all women who were making money when the vast majority of women in Italy at that time couldn't even read, right? So having a sisterhood of women who are doing the same work that you're doing, in terms of like mental, emotional, spiritual development and work is so critical. They've all had a mentor. This is one of the most interesting things I think about in being a seductress is all of this stuff, the sensuality, the sexuality, the femininity, it's all innate. However, we don't just come out of the box this way. We have to be taught it. It's like a language. A baby's brain is primed for any language. You could put any baby who was birthed here in the US, you could put them in Denmark and they would learn Danish. You could put them in Mexico and they would learn Spanish. It doesn't matter where they're born, right? Their brain is primed and ready to learn a language. They just need the input. It's the same with women. We're primed and ready to unleash our seductress. We're primed and ready to unleash our femininity, but we need input. We need to be taught what that means and what that looks like, okay? And also, all seductresses throughout history have had tools on how to awaken and embody that part of themselves. Again, they've all needed the input. So, are you ready for the way to do all of this, right? So I've gone through the 5 secrets to help you become a modern seductress. And when you really embrace all 5 of these things, you don't lose or give up any power, any success, any of your masculine traits. Like, I run a very successful business, ladies. I'm consider myself highly intelligent. I love to learn. I love getting things done. Like, my Netflix queue is basically all history documentaries. Like, I can be embodied and sensual and sexual and still run a really successful business, still be taken seriously as a professional. So we are not in an age anymore where we have to choose. And so if you're ready for the way forward, if you're ready to step into your seductress, to connect to the part of you that holds the keys to your power without sacrificing any of the power success you already have, I have just the thing. It is the Seductress Mastermind. How to step into your feminine, claim your sexy, and create a passionate partnership. So in this mastermind, you'll learn how to adore your own beauty, how to embody your seductress, how to master your emotions, how to embrace your sexuality, and how to understand men and communicate with them in a way that inspires them into greatness and has them treat you like the queen and the goddess that you are. So who is this for? It's a very small group of women. It's an elite group of women who crave full expression, sisterhood, and a private coaching element. It's for the woman who's ready to unleash her seductress and claim what she desires most in this world. A woman who desires deep and profound sisterhood. And it's for both single women and women in relationships, because the seductress energy knows no relationship label. She is perfect for dating and she is perfect for long-term relationships. So what do you get in the mastermind if you decide that you want to join? You get a 9-month initiation into being a seductress. I chose 9 months for a few reasons, but the main reason is it takes the feminine body 9 months to create new life. And this is what you're doing. You're creating a new life, a new paradigm for yourself. You get 18 content modules throughout this 9 months where you're going to learn all of the tools, practices, content, critical thinking skills on what it takes to be a seductress. You get 18 group Q&A calls with me as well. Then you get a half-day private intensive with me, which means 2.5 hours of me and you diving into what you need for support to create what it is you want. You get 6 private coaching sessions with me during the 9 months. There is a 2-day live event in the city that inspires all seductresses, Paris. You get an incredible high vibe sisterhood and lifetime access to all of this content. Okay. Now, I know this program isn't going to be for everyone that's on this call, and I completely understand. It is something that you probably will feel pulled to or called to. If you do feel that pull or that call, it's time to listen. Okay. It's going to be a very small group of women. We're already filling up so many spots. The orientation process has already started. So we just had an orientation call this week, and there's tons of orientation material that you can have access to as well. So the bonus, if you apply for the mastermind, because it is application only, you'll get an additional private training called Sexy Abundance, the link between sex, men, and money, how to be sexy and wealthy. So it's going to be a private call that I'm doing for the women in the mastermind and the women who join up for the mastermind on this call. You'll also get an additional $500 off the price if you apply from this call. So you get an additional bonus of $9.97 in value. So what's your next step? Is to book your call, is to fill out the application. So when you go to this link, and if you're watching the replay, there's a link in the email as well for you to fill out the application and apply for a call and get into my calendar. Here's the deal, ladies. This group is going to be a very small group of women. Again, the sisterhood is so important, which is why it's application only. This program isn't right for everyone. And so I'm talking to every single woman to make sure it's a good fit for you, that's a good time in your life, that you can do this in a way that feels really good for you, and that you'll be a good fit for the group. So you want to go ahead and go to this link, bit.ly/2H as in Howard, capital B as in boy, H as in Howard, 3, V as in van, and J as in John. So, but for this call only, the first 3 women who apply and join the mastermind, they're going to get a pleasure gift set, all of my favorite resources around pleasure and sensuality, and an additional 2 private coaching calls with me. So that means you'll get the private training the $500 off, the pleasure gift set from me, and 2 additional private coaching calls with me during the 9 months. So you'll have 8 private calls with me. So basically, you could talk to me every month. Okay, so again, what you get the Seductress Mastermind, you get the Sexy Abundance call and the discount pricing, the additional private coaching, and the pleasure gift set. And that's for the first 3 women from this call who apply for the program and join. And if you apply for the program and you're not one of the first 3 women that join, you still get the other bonuses. So don't worry about that. So make sure you go to this link here. And if you're watching the replay, you can go to the link in the email. Now, I did say, I'll get to that. So what if you're sitting there and you're like, this sounds so good. I'm afraid I don't have time. I'm afraid I don't have the money. I'm afraid this won't work for me. Book a call. Why? I am not the type of coach that just sells people into programs just to get more people into programs. Every single woman that is in this mastermind to date is in it. I know exactly why she's in it. I know exactly that I can help her and what she'll get from the program. And I know that it's a stretch for her, but a stretch in a good way. And there's been women that I've talked to that I've been like, yeah, I actually don't think this is right for you. So if you're feeling on the fence, but you're feeling that pull, that like, oh my God, this sounds so good, but I'm a little afraid of how much it's going to cost or the time or anything, book a call. The call is free. The application is free. Okay. You'll never know until you get on the phone with me. What's the quote? You miss 100% of the shots that you never take. This is your chance. This is your chance to get what you desire most in the world, to be the fullest expression of yourself. So if you're feeling that pull, fill out the application. Okay, now I did say that if you were on the call live and you stayed with me till this point, I wanted to give you a gift. So what I'm actually giving you is a module for my 8-week course called Confidently Radiant. And the module I'm giving you is all about femininity, sensuality, and sexuality. So it talks right to the heart of this training. And to get that free gift, you want to go to lauren@themagneticwoman.com, email that with the subject line, Modern Seductress. And just write me a little note, tell me who you are, that you are on this call, and I will send you that free gift. Okay, my loves. Any questions? Let's take this off screen share. Okay. Now, you can raise your hand or you can type in the chat box. Now, if you're going to type in the chat box, I have to put my glasses on so I can see. What questions can I answer for you ladies about being a seductress, about men, about you name it? I love answering questions. Okay, my loves, then I'm going to go ahead and end this call. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to watch. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, you can email me. And again, make sure to fill out the application for this call or for the call and to join the mastermind. Have a great night.